So I got an interesting question via a comment on YouTube about the combination of HCG plus something like testosterone propionate, which is a short-acting, fast-acting testosterone ester, and like what would that do for libido? And I actually want to talk about that because that's a really interesting combination that I would like to discuss and I think would be useful for a lot of people. Now look, testosterone propionate as a TRT testosterone isn't always optimal for many reasons, and we'll get into that, but it could be the missing link to some people's protocol, and I've seen it be the case before. So I'm going to break down a protocol of test prop NHCG for optimal sexual function for guys on TRT, and I'm kind of pumped about it. Let's go. Meantime, you guys know the drill. What supports this channel and all this content is our epic nootropic products, courses, stacks. Got Supercharged Dopamine, Holy Grail Dopamine Hacking, Nootropics Mastery, video course on nootropics. You have the Mighty Cortex stack. Again, all products down in the description of this video. High-level nootropic stack. And then, my friends, you got the Torque nootropic stack. This is all day energy, by the way. Still buy one, get one free. BOGO. Right now, code for that is Torque BOGO. I'll explain more at the end of the video about that special. Okay, so what I want to do is discuss a comment that came through on YouTube on the most recent video that I did about HCG and why it's so effective for guys' sex drive, whether you're on TRT or not on TRT. And the comment goes like this. It goes, would you combine daily HCG with test prop or sip enanthate for optimal libido? Now, testosterone propionate is a short-acting testosterone ester, meaning it does not have a long half-life. By the way, there's like tree cutters outside of my studio right now, so if you hear like shit in the background, it's them. People propose different half-lives, like for testosterone propionate, but just to give you an idea, at 2 days, 50% or more of the drug is completely out of your system. Now, why this is so interesting, a short-acting half-life, a short-acting testosterone ester, is that you can dial in a protocol a lot faster this way. People have a hard time dialing in testosterone cypionate or even testosterone enanthate because it stays in your blood for a long time. So if you make a change, and you're a week and a half later and you're still not noticing anything or some weird thing happened or whatever, it's like some of that old cypionate that you had in your system is still in your blood and it's just slowly declining in quantity over time. You never know when it's like fully out. You actually have to look at the half-life and calculate when is it fully out of the system and how do I know that this new protocol, I've given it enough time. Whereas, the pharmacokinetics of testosterone propionate have it out of the system in like 4 days or less. It depends on how you're metabolizing it. I mean, by the way, if any ester is appropriate for daily use, it is testosterone propionate. Now, I did a video called I Injected Libido Fuel and Instantly Regretted It, Testosterone Propionate, where I discussed how it actually very significantly raised my libido for the time that I was using it. And it was like super, super noticeable. My personal experience with it, as you can find in this video, was that yes, in the hours ensuing after dosing, literally after dosing, when you're getting a pretty substantial peak in serum testosterone, and then you have some conversion of that testosterone to estrogen, I'd be like driving in my car thinking about texting girls that I haven't talked to in 6 months because I was like that horny. So very, very powerful for libido. It's like you can reach, depending on your dose, a peak of serum testosterone at 1,000, 1,200, maybe even more, 1,500 nanograms per deciliter, depends on what you're shooting for and what your goals are. And that, to have that much testosterone in the blood at that time is very, very substantial, especially to have it, raise relatively quickly. That can turn on like sex drive and all the other androgenic effects that come with testosterone, like pretty magically. However, as you'll see in that video, if you care to watch it, I did have some side effects, from what was ultimately a low dose. I think it was like 14 milligrams a day. And it's like the quick onset of that peak serum testosterone, yeah, it made me a little anxious, maybe a little edgy. Now, some of that was the spillover in the conversion to estrogen. It required me to change my dose of aromatase inhibitors at the time. I was using anastrozole. Then there's testosterone propionate and HCG. Like, what would that look like? What would a protocol of those two together look like? And importantly, how would it affect sex drive and androgenicity in a male? Well, HCG is luteinizing hormone receptor agonist. So it basically acts as your own neurologically inborn gonadotropins, which bind right to Leydig cells in the testicles and then force the production of testosterone and sperm. But the interesting thing about HCG, as you guys may have seen in like my most recent video on the sex drive reset drug that everybody needs to take, which was HCG, that stuff has a significant track record for increasing male sex drive with guys that try it for monotherapy and guys that add it to their TRT protocols. So what would happen if you combine testosterone propionate and HCG? This is what I think would happen if you did this. Number one, I think you'd have a pretty rapid increase in sex drive almost immediately. Number two, you would have a pretty strong onset of strength in the gym. Again, I mess with testosterone propionate by itself, not with HCG, and it did all these things for me. Bringing HCG in would be very significant. I think that it would create the necessity to manage estradiol a bit stronger in the acute period. So after you're dosing it, remember, you're surging testosterone levels very quickly. You're going to reach a peak of serum testosterone. And so, some of that's going to spill over. Aromatase, those enzymes that convert your test to estrogen, are just going to go crazy for all that serum testosterone. So you might have to take an AI or lower the dose, or kind of do some protocol tinkering in order to straighten that out so that you feel good, have no side effects, and everything functions well. But what I also think is that this could create the perfect daily protocol. Oh, come on, stop with this. I'm trying to type shit and you fucking get in my way with all this. It's a pop-up. They're just different these days. That's all it is. Now, there's guys on the testosterone subreddit that actually run testosterone propionate as their TRT. And there's even one of them right here that runs HCG, and he has a really interesting experience. Now, this guy is only on 500 IU of HCG a week. It's 250 IU of HCG twice weekly, which I imagine is every 3.5 days. So that's a very minimum effective dose. Will keep the testicles functional for most guys, and you'll get some of those benefits of like libido and sex drive and erection quality, without, very substantially impacting estradiol. But what this guy did was he goes, keeping my HCG dose the same. I started with 10 milligrams of test prop every day sub Q. Nothing for a few weeks. Then all of a sudden I became horny again. He goes, it took me by surprise as I haven't been horny in a few years. I'm now having sex with my wife once a week, just trying to get her up to twice a week. Having small kids does put a damper on the bedroom activities. Interestingly, he goes, the next thing that I notice is that my erections are rock hard. I mean, as good as Viagra. Probably the best erections I've had since I was 18. Okay, so what does this tell us? This guy figured out a daily protocol of propionate and HCG that worked well for him, that kept the estradiol in range where everything functioned incredibly, and he was able to regain the sexual function, the androgenicity, and erection quality on TRT that he wasn't able to achieve with a previous ester, probably cypionate or enanthate. It also shows us that yes, you can have very significant efficacy, basically a really killer daily protocol, by running testosterone propionate and HCG. In fact, I really see nothing wrong with it so long as you can tolerate the painful injection sites. After you inject, there's something about testosterone propionate that, when you're injecting subcutaneously, it leaves welts. So for most guys, it just ends up hurting. You get a little lump, and that lump actually hurts or burns for a considerable period of time. And that happened to me. But the libido and the sexual function was fucking crazy. And I really, really appreciated that. But I don't like it to get past a certain point, because then I just can't concentrate on work. Well, why didn't I stay on it? So I'm definitely not injecting testosterone propionate anymore. In fact, I've changed my protocol, which I'll get to probably in another video. Number one drawback of testosterone propionate is the post-injection pain. Yes, the PIP with testosterone propionate is real. I mean, it's it doesn't hurt necessarily significantly while you're injecting, but 30 minutes later, hour later, the whole day, basically, you have this semi-welt wherever you injected, and it does tend to pool up and not to disperse as easily or as... All right, that's enough of that. So if you can manage post-injection pain that is again, you'll be able to live your life and everything's fine, but it's a pain in the ass and it does hurt to the touch, then prop and HCG, it's hey, look, if you need to do that in order to get your TRT protocol finally dialed in to the point where you feel good, libido and erections are great, and you don't have side effects, then maybe that's just what you need to do. Again, I have seen it be effective. I have suggested, I don't want to use the word prescribed because I'm not a doctor. I have suggested that to clients that are working one-on-one with me, and I've seen it be effective. Let me just end in saying, like, what would I do dose-wise for propionate and HCG? What I would do is I'd run between 10 and 18 milligrams of test prop per day, and I would combine that with between 500 and 700 IU of HCG per day. Now, like, you know, on the high end of 18 milligrams, you're 130, 135 milligrams, whatever that ends up being of testosterone per week, which isn't significant and shouldn't make you aromatize a whole lot, all things considered. But again, testosterone propionate is very fast acting. There's going to be some spillover. There's going to be some conversion to estradiol. So again, I'm giving you sort of a loose range to go to understand, like, hey, maybe start on the low end, work your way up to the high end, see if you can tolerate it. But with the HCG, again, you know, minimum effective dose 500, but I really think 700 IU. If you don't want to aromatize a lot into estrogen, then you kind of got to keep the HCG in that range. Again, you can go up to 1,000, as I discussed somewhat recently, but this is really a good range. And considering you're going to have these acute increases in testosterone and serum testosterone, which is going to equal acute conversion to estradiol, the HCG dose being lower, but still enough to maintain, you know, testicle functionality, I think is a good idea. What's the major takeaway? Look, I mean, TRT protocols are notoriously difficult to dial in, mostly because people don't understand, like, how long the ester is sitting, how long to give a protocol change for them to notice results before they start changing it again. But for guys that just can't dial in a protocol, assuming they're doing everything correctly, propionate plus HCG might be very magical for them. Again, that guy on Reddit had an incredible experience, and there are plenty more, and there are more in my client list. Again, as I said at the beginning, right now, we only run BOGOs or buy one, get one frees twice a year, maybe. I mean, you're getting for one bottle, you're getting 2 bottles for the price of 1 bottle. One of the most incredible stacks: all day energy, motivation, the will to do work, memory increases too, verbal fluency increases. You're getting nootropic benefits plus that energy that's so powerful. It's like live again, right? Give your brain the fuel it needs to have a good life and to be productive. Anyway, I'll stop rambling. Torque, buy one, get one free right now. Code is TorqueBOGO, links description of this video. Wanted to mention for consultations, I'm coming up on busy season. So I'm going to be booked on all these consultations to where, like, I can't even really get people in very soon. It happens every single year around this time. So if you need to book me for consultation, whether TRT protocol optimization, targeted email advice, picking my brain, erectile dysfunction, nootropics packages, and the bigger 90-day or 180-day one-on-one packages, you must do it now to get in. Everybody, it's been a pleasure hanging out with you. So much more content coming this week, so look forward to it. Hope you're doing great, and I'll talk to you in the next one.